Good afternoon, and welcome to this regular meeting of the City Council Community Oversight on Police Practices Board. I, Dino Novello, Chair, will be facilitating this meeting. At this time, I would like to read the land acknowledgement. The land that Eureka rests on is known in the Wiyot language as Jirojiji. Past actions by local, state, and federal governments removed the Wiyot and other indigenous people from the land and threatened to destroy their cultural practices. The city of Eureka acknowledges the Wiyot community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generation. This acknowledgement demonstrates the city's commitment to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. I would like to, Shannon, can you please call roll?
Board Chair Torres is absent. Board Chair Giventer.
Hello.
Board Member Pardoe is absent. Board Member Ciarabellini.
Present.
Board Member Ladica.
Present.
And Board Member Watson has resigned. And Board Chair Novello.
Present. I would like to also acknowledge that we also have city staff in attendance. We have City Manager Miles Slattery here, Commander LaFrance, Chief Stevens. Also, too, we have Independent Auditor Teresa Magula, also here via Zoom. And let's go ahead and please rise and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next agenda item is the approval of our previous meeting. Has everyone had the opportunity to review the meeting minutes?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
I would like to, but before we do that, if it's okay with the approver, I would like to suggest some changes. I know Alicia Watson, her name is misspelled in the minutes, and also for staff, we have noted that Chief Stevens was here, and I just suggest that we replace that with Commander LaFrance. Any other changes? Okay. Do I entertain a motion to approve the minutes with the suggestions that I made? Board Member Giventer moves to make that motion.
And I'll second.
Board Member Giventer is a second. Or Ladica, sorry. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. The next agenda item is public comment. This is a time for members of the public to comment on items not listed on the agenda. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Such time allotment or portion thereof shall not be transferred to other speakers. The public will be allowed to speak concurrently with the calling of an agenda item following the staff presentation of that time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the COPP may not take action on an item that does not appear on the agenda. Do I have any public comment here in chambers? Seeing none, are there any public comment in Zoom?
I see no one on Zoom.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda, it is community-based organizations. So on our agenda, we do not have any community-based organizations to share at today's meeting, but I would like to put it out there that it is in our bylaws that we do invite community members to, if the board agrees, to invite we invite community members to participate with our board and provide a discussion. So if there's any board members out there,
And through the chair, I'm sorry, just so everybody's aware, we have a list of emails that we have been and will continue to email out each agenda to each of those community-based organizations on a quarterly basis. And then we've also had board members go and participate in our Humboldt Equity Consortium meetings to solicit more input from them as well.
correct. So if any community organizations would like to participate by doing a presentation, please communicate with the city. The next agenda item is board member reports. This is a time where we allow our board members to report out on things that are relevant to the board. Do we have any board member reports?
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to make a comment. Recently, there have been several days in which there have been street protests on various matters in the city of Eureka. I've observed a couple of those things, and I wish to point out and compliment the Eureka Police Department for protecting citizens' rights to First Amendment protest, as well as maintaining safety and security against any potential disruption or property damage. This is, in my opinion, in distinct contrast to other protests of a similar nature in other cities. And what I've observed online in those protests is that the local police department also turns out, but they turn out in tactical riot gear surrounding the protest very closely with quite a number of personnel. This is in distinct contrast to the response and the character of Eureka Police Department response. The turnout in tactical gear and with riot helmets, shields, and carrying less than lethal weaponry is provocative. And the approach that the Eureka Police Department has maintained civility, the right to protest, with very little in the way of necessary police action. So I'd like to make that compliment. I've forwarded some of the observation I've made online to Shannon for potential distribution and viewing by other board members if you wish to verify those observations that I've made. So thank you very much to the people who have been present on those occasions.
All right. Thank you. Any other? Yes. Board member Ciarabellini.
Thank you. Well, I had the opportunity and honor to attend the 135th Basic Law Enforcement Academy graduation that was held at College of the Redwoods on July 10th. And of course, I've been to many of these, but I just wanted to make a point of bringing this up, that there's 2 graduating classes per year. And this is primarily where all of our local law enforcement gets their basic training, with a few exceptions of having to go out of town. But I was just really proud to see the Eureka Police Department so well represented by their command staff and others that were in attendance to welcome their new EPD officers that were being graduated and being sworn in that day. So you all looked sharp. They were in their Class A uniforms and really represented the city and department well. And graduating, they had 2 graduates in the academy, Amanda Davis and James Whitchurch. And this was only a class of 12 cadets. So it always does me good to see some women graduating from the academy and participating in the force. So It's not an easy thing to do from this person's perspective. So anyway, I just wanted to give a shout out to all of you and how great you looked and how you presented yourselves at the graduation. So congratulations to the new cadets too.
Thank you for sharing that. Any other?
And I have nothing to share other than the fact that I need to leave at 5 o'clock. So I apologize in advance.
I have a couple of things to report. As City Manager Slattery said, Board Member Giventer and I, we spoke to the Humboldt Equity Consortium and in June, and it was well received. We answered a lot of questions. People were curious about like what we do. We invited them to come and participate. It was fun, and also too on August 7th, Board Member Giventer and I were going to speak to the Human Rights Commission for the county. So if any board members are interested, we are going to be meeting in board chambers at 5:30. Any of you would like to participate or join us, let me know. Another thing that I have is, as Executive Assistant mentioned, Alicia Watson put in her resignation today. And so we are in need of an additional board member. So if anybody here or in the public is interested in participating, please contact the city staff, and you can start. You can talk with them, and they'll take care of it from there.
There was a press release that went out today. Hopefully that gets advertised.
Excellent. So, another thing, another report that I have is it seems from my own personal observation, it seems like the last couple of meetings we've been having, it seems like our meeting seems to be, we have a lot of stuff to discuss, which is great. I think that's the whole point, is to talk about these things that are coming up. But initially, when I first came on the board, we were pretty much wrapped up like around 4:30, 5 o'clock. But it seems like more and more we're having more things to talk about. And so I was just going to bring it up to discussion amongst ourselves to see what are people's thoughts about should we potentially shorten our meetings and meet every other month, or potentially or do we keep things the way they are, knowing that we are going to expect to be here a little longer than usual.
So Chair Novello, just as a point of order, it would probably be best just to agendize that in the future for discussion, as opposed to requesting that we take an action. Maybe have consensus from them on whether or not you guys like to bring this back and have a discussion at the next meeting about it, and not necessarily make those changes at this time.
What are people's thoughts about bringing that back as an agenda item? Thumbs up if you, just for discussion.
Well, it sort of depends upon what the pending agendas are. Our discussions have gone long because we have quite a number of discussions.
Turn on your mic.
Our agendas have gone long because we have a number of discussion topics. So I suggest it be at the call of the chair, assessing what's pending.
Again, so it sounds like you're interested in potentially talking about this at our next meeting in October.
So right now, all we need is a consensus if we want to bring this back to the next agenda, and we can put it on new business.
Okay. So consensus, if thumbs up, if you would like to bring this item back to our October quarterly meeting. Thumbs up or thumbs down if
yes.
I see we have 3 thumbs up on that. And again, this is just for discussion. Any other board member reports?
Well, can I ask a question about that item? to include, I'm hoping that the city's input on any schedule change could be available at that, when we discuss that agenda item.
Yeah, and we'd also bring in the IPA as a part of that. We had some discussions with Chair Novello about it, and we'll bring that all as a part of the presentation.
All right. Thank you. Old business. Our bylaws say that we need to provide an annual report to the city council. In our last meeting, we talked about that, and so I guess for discussion is it seems that we need two people to present to the city council. I kind of feel like, given my role in this board, that I feel like I should be one of those members, but we're looking for me and someone else to form a subcommittee to make a presentation to the city council.
And just as a little bit of background to that, we've discussed this with our IPA and internally with staff. Idea would be to bring any topics that you guys thought were a big topic of concern throughout your time in this year, but then also looking at the ordinance itself and what you're tasked with doing and providing a report back on how you've addressed those things as a part of the board.
Yes, board member Ciarabellini.
Thank you. Well, I don't have a desire to do that with you, but I think I have a suggestion that Dr. Pardoe, since he's been involved in a lot of these reviews himself and other meetings and with the IPA, that he would be a great person to team up with you. If maybe we could have staff contact him and see if he were interested.
I think since he's not here, you can just nominate him.
But that's what I was going to say, but I thought maybe I should back off a little bit from that.
No,
Yeah,
we can reach out to him.
okay.
So we just need a consensus on that as well, if you would like to nominate Board Chair Novello and Board Member Pardoe.
So if you would like to nominate myself and board member Pardoe, thumbs up. Unanimous.
That's what he gets for not showing up.
All right, for new business, we decided because of board member Latica's schedule to bump up agenda item J4 and J5 up to before we do the quarterly review. So I'll pull up my notes. So for the IP, so J4, item J4. So this is, the IPA review came from a previous meeting that we've had where it's also in our bylaws to do a review of the independent auditor. And so during this time, we've had board member Giventer and board member Torres draft up a report. And that report was in our agenda packet. And so I just would like to see if is there any thoughts or comments from this board on the IPA review up for discussion?
You have a draft document which has been prepared. This will be the first ever action by our board with respect to an IPA review. So my question is, what is the general reaction to the tone or the content of the document, whether it's sufficient, needs more detail, or whether this serves as an adequate document that would be forwarded to the city council?
And the direction we're looking for is exactly what board member Giventer is speaking to. If there's any changes, any sort of ideas that we'd make those adjustments, bring them back. In the next meeting, it would be an approval by the board to make it final.
question.
Yes, Board Member Ciarabellini.
So my question is, would this report then be submitted, would that be something that the chair and Board Member Pardoe would be presenting during their annual presentation to the council?
It definitely could be a part of that, and then we'd keep it on file as well, and keep it for future reference.
Okay, so this would be one component of that presentation, and then they'll decide whatever else you want to present, what we've been up to here.
Correct.
Okay. Well, along those lines, I have one comment. First off, I'd like to thank the board members that worked on this. It's quite a challenge, especially since you had no outline to go by and came up with it. I think it's, I like it. I think it's simple and it's very well organized. It talks about what their responsibility is, their being the IPA, and ours as far as evaluating their performance. The one issue I have, just bring this out for discussion, is under recommendations, where you're recommending that that you add, or we add, the RIPA data, the Racial and Identity Profiling Act data, as one of the IPA's responsibilities to evaluate. And the part that's kind of bugging me here is that the data would include trends and comparisons to other law enforcement agencies as appropriate. And I guess as appropriate's okay if the data is only limited to what is available on public record. I mean, I wouldn't want the IPA, and I don't think they would, but I wouldn't want any expectation that they overstep and include the Sheriff's Department, Fortuna PD, other agencies in comparison that might, they wouldn't expect information from those agencies to be reviewed by them or compared to.
If I may comment, that is exactly what I had in mind. I think because of the close working relationship, in particular with the Sheriff's Department, that exists in Humboldt County, that a comparison is appropriate. Now, the IPA representatives earlier made an appropriate critique of that, in that we're not confident that the RIPA data compiled by other agencies is reliable. It exists, it's public information to be sure, but without some type of audit that IPA could provide to the city of Eureka, but IPA has no means of auditing Sheriff's Department data or any other police department data, the comparison would be potentially inaccurate. That's a relevant comment on it. But you see, just a compilation of data to me is insufficient. There needs to be some standard or basis of comparison in order for us, in order for it to be managerially actionable. And that's the dilemma. We haven't resolved that dilemma, but I'd like to reserve that as a potential area of responsibility for IPA.
Well, I think it's overreaching, and I don't think there should be an expectation of the other departments to participate in. I mean, it's okay if we look at our own data and what we're doing and how many incidents, how many contacts. Why not compare it to other cities of our same size and population in the state? You know, I mean, the comparisons, it's just overreaching. And I think, you know, some of the other agencies that don't have independent police auditors, or yet anyway, you know, shouldn't be compelled to participate in our data gathering. So that's my objection.
Yes, Board Member Letica.
Thank you. I appreciate the input of both Larry and Board Member Ciarabellini. I think I agree with your concern that we not include that data of other local law enforcement agencies, at least at the start. If we could expand it out to other places in California that are geographically and demographically similar, that have reliable data sets, I think that would be maybe a way to make this acceptable to all parties.
I would like to ask a question, and I guess this question may be more towards the independent auditor. How much additional time would that take for us to have to gather that additional information from other jurisdictions?
Right. Thank you, Chair Novello and board members. Really appreciate the conversation around this. Teresa Magulo with the Independent Police Auditor. If you'll just allow me to back up quickly to the initial concept of comparing data sets, I have just a couple comments related to that at the onset before I answer your question, if that's all right.
That's fine.
So really two things. One, the role of the independent police auditor, as I understand per the ordinance, is really to assess internal compliance, operational integrity, adherence to policy and procedures within the Eureka Police Department. It's not necessarily to set that benchmark against other agencies. I really want to kind of speak back to the point that I made in the earlier meeting, and thank you, Board Member Giventer, for bringing that up, which is, again, other agencies have practices that may be fundamentally different than Eureka PD. We're looking at agencies that may differ in size or staffing, community demographics, their enforcement priorities, their data collection practices, as I alluded to the last meeting. And I am very hesitant to commit to doing the kind of more robust analysis that perhaps would be more appropriate for a research organization or a scholar who's really looking at the whole scope of the RIPA data set. So those are really my initial concerns with doing a sort of a comparison or even a benchmark against agencies, whether they be the local agencies to the region or other agencies of similar size and demographics to the city of Eureka. I really, having not done an audit of that type, would say that it is difficult to assess how long that might take or what kind of resources would be required. I will say that the city of Palo Alto contracted with an research organization who specializes in this kind of data analysis work, and they have still not come up with any actionable findings. I believe that they contracted with that organization 2.5 years ago and still have not seen a report. So I don't know, kind of the logistics or the contract or the scope of that work, but I do know that it was an unsatisfactory result to this point, given that 2.5 years later, there's still nothing from that particular project because it was so broad in scope and so difficult to establish the parameters. Does that help?
Yeah, and I'd like to add, thank you, Teresa. I think that it's important to note that, contractually, it may require some sort of change, and contractually with the IPA, those services aren't being provided right now. When we discussed this in previous meetings, it's more been to an internal audit as to whether or not EPD is in compliance with RIPA, not necessarily any comparisons to any other agencies, and that falls within the purview of the IPA as far as an audit of our internal compliance, not only with our own policies, but with state and federal.
Okay. Any other comments about the review?
Well,
Yes, Board Member
well,
Ciarabellini.
I would recommend that we take that out entirely, and not the whole RIPA thing, but comparisons to law enforcement agencies is appropriate, and bring it back to the board next time.
I would like to.
Should I make a motion to that effect?
Sure.
Okay. Well, I move that.
Or do we? This isn't a
could-
motion
just-
item,
Well,
It's not.
right?
well, you can do it as a part of direction, definitely. But if there's going to be any sort of other changes that want to be discussed, I would recommend that those be discussed, come to consensus, and then say we direct staff to move forward with whatever those changes may be.
Are there any other changes that we see in this review?
Yeah, and I, at the risk of upsetting my other board members, I just, first of all, I really do appreciate all the work. I'm sure this took hours. And so I appreciate you guys putting it together. But there are facts and figures, ordinances cited. And so I was just going to suggest that maybe we run this by the city to look at it and just like fact check and just make sure everything's in line with the data sets.
Okay. Great idea. Yeah. Yes, Board Member.
Just
Giventer.
one final comment. Data without comparisons are just numbers. They're useless because you don't know how to evaluate. Is it too much, too little, or whatever? So while we ought to pay attention to whether our data recording is accurate, managerially, I see it of no use whatsoever.
Okay. I would like to provide my feedback on this. I just wanted to again commend Board Member Giventer and Torres for the work that they did, and I appreciate the detail that you provided. I tend to be more on the side of suggesting that we start out with the data that we currently have available now, and then we could then see after a couple of rounds of whether or not we should consider that, whether or not we should do more. But I know it kind of this topic kind of jumps into the next agenda item, which is the audits. But for me personally, I feel it best that, again, we just remove the section from and comparisons to other law enforcement agencies as appropriate. So and maybe we just start out with that, and then we could see how things go from there. But yes, Board Member Ciarabellini.
So when see how to say this. And when you were making these recommendations, what was it your intent to actually change the ordinance to include a requirement in the ordinance that the IPA, because we have the ability as a board to request for audits whenever we see a need or necessity. And when you brought up RIPA the first time as a topic of interest that you might want to see an audit about, we agreed that, yeah, that would be something we'd like to see. And I did voice my opinion at the time about overreaching to other local agencies. But if this isn't, if your intent is to actually change the ordinance to require that on ongoing basis or something, that's a whole different game.
Yeah, city manager
So
Slattery.
I just, sorry to interrupt. I think that referring to the IPA has a certain purview that does, our independent police auditor. It looks at our practices and what we do, makes recommendations so that we're, dynamic and up to the most recent policing practices that we possibly can be. I think this is more of a research area. I don't know if the IPA would be a person that would be the right resource to use in order to get what what Board Member Giventer is looking at. And I don't think it would require a change to the ordinance. It would require a change to our contract with them, and likely, depending on what that looked like, typically what the city does when we're looking at stuff like this is a comparison, and we're looking for a professional in order to perform that work. We develop a request for qualifications. We send out that request for qualifications. We describe what the intention of that study or research is, and then we get qualifications back, and we decide on whether or not that person. Then we recommend to typically council to hire that person to go do that. I think this is at that level and not necessarily at an oversight board level.
So
I think that's
So just to correct me, it sounds like what you're saying is that these audits may not necessarily be done with the independent auditors group, correct?
I wouldn't even call this an audit. I calling what the comparison and looking at this from almost a social standpoint as to whether or not we are. I don't know. Don't want to put words in your mouth or anything, but I don't see an audit would be us taking the RIPA data that EPD puts together, analyzing that RIPA data, and ensuring that the way that they're doing it, not only from a reporting standpoint or when they do it or how they do it or how often they do it, that's an audit thing. When you're looking at a comparison to Eureka, California, to whether it's Humboldt County or Arcata or Fortuna or Pasadena, it's a different animal. You're not necessarily, they don't have the access to audit their numbers. You're going to be relying upon just those things that are required as a part of reporting. And to look at that, and I think that's what Teresa was getting at, is when you're looking at those things, there are so many different factors that come into this to explain why things may be a certain way. And from just getting the data set that you're going to get that's required from the reporting, it's going to be very difficult to get any meaningful interpretation of what it would, what's going on. And if Teresa, if you'd like to explain that better.
Just to directly answer.
I'm going to let independent auditor
Okay.
answer this question.
Yeah. Thank you, City Manager, and also Chair Novello. Yeah, so just to echo what City Manager Slattery said, it really is a question of understanding the research question, right? And when we look at previous audits related to the analysis of RIPA data and RIPA data collection, the work that is within our scope, most typically in the projects that we have done in the past, are asking the question, is this agency in compliance with the requirements by the state of California? Sometimes there's, some ancillary questions around, is that appropriate relative to the community, the makeup of the community? What might explain some of the factors that are related to the data? So, for example, the city of Santa Monica requested that we conduct such an audit based on community concerns that the numbers of individuals who were being stopped who were persons of color were much higher relative to their population. And so really digging into what operationally within the city of Santa Monica's police department was occurring to have those numbers show up. So two research questions in those cases. One is really the question of, is this in compliance with both the state law as well as department policies and practices? Is the reporting happening timely, and so forth? And the second research question is really operational, specific to a particular department and specific to the demographics of a particular city or county that we may be working in. The research question that I hear, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, Board Member Giventer, that seems to be of interest today is a much larger research question, perhaps around how does Eureka and their RIPA statistics align or not with comparable cities within the region or even statewide. And that's a research question that fundamentally is first outside our scope, as the city manager alluded to, but secondly outside our general practice area as well. So we are not qualified to do the type of controlled variable, multivariate regression analysis, the kinds of things that you would see in more of a research or educational style organization. That to me would be a different set of research questions than what we've done in the past and that what we are experts in doing.
Board Member Giventer.
Good. You've summarized my concern exactly. And that is exactly my interest. And in the future, I hope that we'll be able to pursue that. Now, the relationship with OIR is a professional services agreement. I agree. That may not be potentially within your purview now or in the future. But the research question remains on the table.
Okay. Yes, Board Member Ciarabellini.
So this document is the.
Oh, turn on the mic.
Oh, thank you. So the document that you've put before us here is really specific to assessing the work of the IPA over the year. So I would suggest, given all the comments and concerns, that we remove that recommendation that has to do with the RIPA data, and we not include that in their assessment. Hasn't been done yet. That's something we can direct them to do and give it within the confines of their contract and limited information that we have through our own department. So what I'm saying is I don't think that paragraph should be in this assessment of their evaluation at all. So I would move that we remove the RIPA comment from the recommendations and any other changes that come up as a result of this discussion, and direct staff to bring that back to the board at our next meeting.
Would you like to add to your motion what Board Member Latica said about ensuring that the data matches to the?
Oh, that was all the other comments, sorry.
Okay.
Specifically to include a staff review of the, what did you call it? Data references?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the data and just references and citations just for accuracy. Not that I don't trust you guys, but it's nice to have a second set of eyes.
Well said.
All right.
So
I have a motion on the table.
I need to seek clarity on the motion. Are we striking the whole paragraph or just the last portion of the paragraph?
I'm recommending we strike the whole paragraph, so it's clear that it's not, that's within our purview, not the city council's.
So we have a motion on the table. Do I have a second? I second. If I believe I'm a voting member, so I second that motion. So, Board Member,
Discussion.
what's that?
Is there, we could have more discussion.
Do we have more discussion on that, on this idea?
Yeah, I can see striking from and onward, so and comparisons to other law enforcement agencies, but I think they could at least do like a summary review of the data since they have some familiarity with it, and that seems to be within their scope, and so
And
we haven't looked at that data before, so this is an opportunity. I'm not going to know what I'm looking at, and so having their eyes and years of education and experience.
And just
Can I
just
clarify my
invaluable.
motion?
just for the record, what I'm also saying too is that we're not completely removing that idea. That idea could still, we could also make that recommendation to gather and review RIPA data in the future. So yeah, that's where, just to clarify everyone on my end, is that I'm fine with removing it and also realizing that we can make that recommendation in the future to bring back to do a RIPA audit. So, Board Member Ciarabellini.
Yeah, so just to clarify my motion, I agree, and I agree with the chair too. We have the ability to request audits, and like we've previously talked about this, that we're going to request an audit, and we could probably come up with a whole list of things we want them to look at in the future, this being one of them. I'm just saying that it doesn't belong in their evaluation, in our evaluation of their performance, that they haven't even done it yet. So we're not evaluating that. They've done the board members have done a good job identifying the amount of complaints and some specific areas that they looked at of interest. And I think that's, that happened. That's what we're looking at, what they did, not what they're going to do.
Any other comments? No. So we have a motion and a second on the table. I'm gonna call a vote. All those.
Is the motion on the paragraph or is the motion on the phrase?
It's my Well,
I can
yeah. Please
I'll clarify my motion. I move that we strike the whole paragraph.
And to include updated data, have the city review the data to make sure that it's that it's accurate.
I'm confused.
So the motion is to remove the paragraph and recommend that the city go in and review the data that's in this review to make sure that the data that is in here is accurate.
I'm still confused as to who's going to be doing what.
So, if I can try and clarify. So, right now we're just looking for direction on this report. We asked all of the board what kind of changes they may recommend. There's been 2 changes that have been recommended as a part of this motion. One of them is to remove the recommendation related to RIPA, the entire paragraph, and not have that in the report, and then to go and look at the data and the ordinance references in there by staff and ensure that those references are accurate, and then to bring that report back as it is. So other than those 2 changes, the report as is will come back to this board as it is in your agenda right now, minus the paragraph on RIPA, and ensuring that those references and data that are, the ordinances and the data referenced in there are accurate.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Board Member Ciarabellini. Looked like you were going to say something.
I was going to vote.
Oh, okay. So I say let's just vote on it, and so all those who are in favor of this motion to strike out the second paragraph and to make sure that the city goes in and city staff go in and make sure that all the data and the numbers are accurate. All those who are in favor of this, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
3 ayes and 1 opposed. Motion passes.
And board members Pardoe and Torres are absent.
Thank you. All right. The next item on the agenda is J5. It kind of dovetails to what we just discussed. And in our last meeting, board member Giventer suggested that this board review the RIPA Racial Identity and Profile Act. And so is there anything that you would like to add on that? Is there any? Yeah.
This is specifically in reference to verifying that the actions, the policy, and the practices of the Eureka Police Department with respect to complying with state law, that is the Racial Identity and Profiling Act, that is done accurately, at least within our own house. We can trust our data.
And just so the discussion that we had as a part of our agenda review here was to kind of get the feedback from the independent police auditor who has done all of these audits throughout the state and other agencies, and thinking of it in terms of audits for 2025, and what you guys would like to see in general. I mean, obviously RIPA can clearly be a part of that, but I think that Teresa wanted to provide some input on the audits they've done in the past related to RIPA.
Go ahead, independent auditor Magula. Oh, we can't hear you. It looks like you unmuted yourself.
Thank you. Yes, I needed someone to unmute me. Thank you for that. Yeah, so thank you for the opportunity. You know, I think that certainly this discussion already, discussions in previous meetings have really emphasized the board's interest in, you know, some review of RIPA. I appreciate board member Giventer really narrowing the scope of that audit question. And it's certainly something that we've done in the past for other jurisdictions to understand and kind of just assess that compliance internally with the state's requirements for reporting. You know, I like to think of the work that we do from a few different perspectives. One, of course, is that we have a limited budget capacity, so we want to make sure that the audits that we are conducting, you know, are as kind of strategic and meaningful as possible for both the board as well as for the city, and then of course for the operations of EPD internally. So my 2 cents, and of course I serve at the interest of this board and the city, so certainly want to take guidance from you all. But my preference would be to consider some audit topics that perhaps have not been evaluated or are not evaluated in other spaces. And so I'm looking, for example, for audits perhaps of use of force compliance, compliance with policy as well as best practices in the state and in the nation, reviews of supervisory oversights of high-risk incidents, for example, high-risk traffic stops, uses of force, and so on. And these are the kinds of audits that we find have some real actionable recommendations related to department operations to net improve the operations of the department and to help management make those decisions. One of the things that we have found through our RIPA audits is that aside from determining whether an organization is in or out of compliance, the other audit questions, the ancillary questions that accompany them are unfortunately kind of unsatisfactory in their responses. And we find that there isn't really an affirmative yay or nay, the department is doing well or not with respect to how it's you know, policing and the statistics that are coming out of that. So I really do want to couch this discussion around what the board believes would be kind of the most bang for the buck, to use a cliche term, around the types of audits that we are conducting as your independent police auditor, and to consider items that may be very operationally relevant, both to the department as well as to your community. And I'll absolutely answer any questions related to that or past work in the RIPA audits or other types of audits that we regularly conduct.
So I would like to extend that question as well to the board. What kind of data are we looking at, or you would like to see considered if we did a RIPA audit? Yes, Board Member Latica.
Yeah, I would just like the initial exposure to that data so that I could start to wrap my head around it. And just, so are we just at this point just talking about the potential for RIPA audit?
We're talking about what kind of data
Or any
would,
potential audits?
yeah, of any potential
Okay.
audits.
And the other thing that popped into my head was an audit of the body-worn camera usage, if you've done that for similar departments. Independent auditor, I'd be interested in hearing about that.
Any other? Yes, Board Member Giventer.
I'd like to potentially extend this conversation, perhaps more on an informal basis, to include the chief of police and the city manager as to what would be useful from their perspective.
Okay. So, city manager and what would be useful? What kind of
I
audits?
definitely have to lean on the police chief and our auditor. I know that the previous one we did was mental health calls for service, and did we do another one? I think we just did that one.
We haven't done another formal audit aside from that, Mr.
Yeah.
City Manager.
Yeah. So I think Chief Stevens, if you have any things that you feel would be useful as far as an audit perspective.
Good afternoon. I can't say that there's a particular topic or subject within a department that I would think that needed to be audited right now. Of course, every time there is an audit, we have something to learn from, gain from, and move forward with. So I think whatever it is will be beneficial to the department, and the outcomes we can use to move forward in a direction if we have changes that we need to make, and to show the community and the board that we are doing what is right.
Okay. Any other topics or suggestions?
Board Chair Novello, before we move forward, I would just like to note that Board Member Pardoe is on Zoom. So,
okay, I
and he
see
does
him.
have his hand raised.
Yes, Board Member Pardoe. Do you have is there something you would like to add to our discussion?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I apologize for not being there in person. I was late today. So, yeah, I guess the question for our independent auditor is, they've been looking at our data for a long time. And as our city manager said, I'd be interested to see what they would think would be important for an audit topics. Just because I would like to think they have a good idea about the department and the strengths and some of the areas that we need to continue to work on for the department. So it would be interesting to hear the independent auditor's thoughts on some potential topics.
Yes, Independent Auditor Magula.
Yeah, thank you, Board Member Pardoe. Just wanted to loop back to Board Member Latica's original comments. A question around review of body-worn camera utilization. That's certainly something that we've done in the past. We did what we call a mini audit in an agency that we evaluate here in Southern California that looked at compliance with the body-worn camera policy. We selected a number of cases where we would expect an officer to have initiated initiated recording, and we took a look at whether those did in fact have a corresponding recording that was kept in their evidence system. And then we also used that as an opportunity to just review body-worn camera footage for components like adherence with the muting policy, so whether officers were turning their muting functionality on and off in the appropriate times, and so on. So it's something that we've done before. It can provide some interesting findings. To the larger question of what would we do given our work so far in your jurisdiction, I'm not intending anything that I say now is not because we're seeing a net need for improvement or area of challenge or problems within your department. It's really just a question of the types of audits that we are regularly conducting that I think are important for accountability and transparency. The one that is most immediate in my mind, and you've heard me say it a couple of times now, is related to uses of force. I think in particular, the opportunity to take a look at the high frequency, potentially lower risk uses of force, so those that may not rise to the level of a critical incident, like an officer involved shooting, which naturally would be within our scope. But to look at kind of the more day-to-day use of force, use of the kind of control holds, team takedowns, and so forth, body strikes, use of some of the tools on the officer's belt, such as the taser or OC spray. That is a typical audit that oversight entity would conduct on a more regular basis, and we have not had an opportunity to do that in your city yet. Something that I would like to take a look at. Again, not because I'm seeing that there is an operational deficiency, but simply to just put that second set of eyes and the third party review. We already are routinely doing audits of the complaint process. That's another area that I would naturally suggest, but one that we do on a regular basis, and we're reviewing every single case. So really at this point, the highlight that I would like to propose would be one related to use of force, and something that the board might direct in more specific, or that I could work with the department and the city to determine more specific audit questions around that.
Okay. Any other thoughts? I have an idea, and I don't know if this could be done with this RIPA, with the RIPA data. Is there a way we could find a response to the houseless population with the RIPA data? Is because it seems like that is a pretty big topic in our community. Is like response times and the amount of responses that EPD staff go to and respond to individuals who are houseless.
Yeah, and I think it's somewhat separate. I mean, regardless of the community member, whether they are sheltered or unsheltered, or follow the same guidelines as RIPA. We do a more intense survey every 2 years of our homeless population, and I believe that has been reported here. Is it? Yeah, and I think next year is the next one for 2026. We do have that data, and that does deal with race. But if there's something specific to response to the homelessness, I think a little bit of that was covered with our mental health response stuff, because a lot of that tends to happen with our unsheltered population. But any combination it's up to the board's desire on whether or not what they want to do.
Okay. Yes, board member Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Magula.
Sorry, I stepped out of turn. Apologize. Other potential topics that we've looked at in other jurisdictions, just to kind of give more of a framework as well. We've looked at responses to domestic disturbances. Those are traditionally, again, not in Eureka in specific, but across law enforcement, calls for service that may have components that go sideways. Certainly a lot of tension and concern with those types of, whether it be domestic violence or other types of domestic disturbances. We've looked at things such as the field training officer program. We have looked at responses and the types of length of time and booking procedures when an individual is arrested. So we've done a whole scope of audits related to operations. I think for me, one of the areas of interest is naturally use of force, because we haven't done that audit in your city. It's one that's really kind of top of mind. But certainly if there's interactions with juveniles, interactions in school settings, we've done all kinds of different vulnerable or high-risk populations as well, and would be happy to continue with that follow-up to our calls for mental health crises.
Okay. Board member Ciarabellini.
So I like the idea of use of force, of looking at that. When you look at our, the activity log here and the complaints that are coming in from the community, a lot of them have to do with use of force and complaints with regards to that. And so it is a pertinent topic in our community, I think. All of these sound great and interesting, you know, components of the work that the police do in our city. But if we're going to prioritize something that really has an impact or that's relevant to the department, and I think it would be good information for the leadership of the department to know what types of use of force are being used and how effective they are, and anything else that you assess during your audit. So I would recommend that we start with use of force.
Yes.
Through the
City
chair, I
manager.
apologize, and reading through my agenda made me realize we do need to do public comment on these.
Oh, okay.
So before, and we should probably go back and see if there's any members of the public that wanted to talk on our previous two items after we do public comment for this. But prior to a recommendation, we should take public comment on this item and potentially go back.
So
and
should we go back
definitely-
and do public comment on the IPA
Well, let's
review?
stick to this one for now.
Okay. So we'll provide public comment for the IPA review. But for now, is there any public comment on, or do we still have this?
Yes,
No, that's not part.
that's not,
That's not part of.
no.
No. So public comment now, it sounds like. Yeah. So
Unless there's
It-
further discussion that's
is
needed.
is there any more discussion that we have on this before we take any action? Oh, now he does. Okay. Board Member Pardoe.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with Board Member Ciarabellini. I think two of our complaints today are use of force complaints. Certainly on the national level, use of force is a very focused upon topic. And certainly if the independent police auditor, I like the idea of the independent police auditor working with our city manager, Slattery, and the police chief, Stevens, to determine that use of force focus. So I just wanted to add that to Board Member Ciarabellini's comments. Thank you.
And then before we move on, since Board Member Pardoe is here, can we just get a quick vote that he can participate via teleconference?
All those who.
So I just need a motion, a second, and a vote. I don't think so. Okay. And then, so I need a motion and a second, and then Board Member Pardoe, if you could just give us a reason for your teleconference today.
You want the motion first?
Yes, please.
I move that we allow Dr. Pardoe to participate via Zoom.
Board Member Ciarabellini makes a motion. Do I have a second? Board Member Giventer seconds. So all those in favor to allow Board Member Pardoe to be part of our meeting, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
And then Board Member Pardoe, could you just let us know why you're joining teleconference?
Yes, my surgical cases went longer than expected, and I did not want to disrupt the meeting walking in during the middle of the meeting.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we have Board Member Pardoe in Zoom. Okay. So now it's the time for a public comment for our current discussion on audits. Do I have anybody in chamber who wish to comment on the audits discussion that we just had? Seeing none. Anybody on Zoom wishing to comment?
Janelle?
Hello.
Okay.
Janelle, you have 3 minutes.
Thanks. You need to change your agenda, sorry. I agree that use of force is a very important issue, and that looking at that is, I also agree. I also would like to just put out there as something to keep in mind of a use of police power, and that is with businesses. At one point, I actually handed to a business owner a writing that the previous chief of police had put out because of an incident that I witnessed at a business. After that, my complaint that I put in was about an incident at a coffee shop. And the police officer just came in and told the person to leave, did not imply or say that he had been interfering with the business or had done anything that he needed to leave about. It was simply discrimination on the basis of the business owner. And I think that that is something that, you know, it was a freezing cold morning and this officer made this person go back out. And I just think that the use of police is inappropriate in that situation, that the police should not be willy-nilly being used to evict people from businesses. If they are interfering with the business, then they have the business owner has a legitimate right to call the police and have the person removed. That's all. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Janelle. Is there anybody else on Zoom wishing to comment?
I see no one else.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion on this agenda item? I entertain a motion. Anybody wish to make a? Can you just make it again, just to clarify?
Oh, okay, I move that we choose the use of force as a topic for our audit in 2025.
We have a motion on the table. Do I have a second? Board Member Giventer seconds. So all those in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Board Member Pardoe.
Aye.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. Now I'd like to go back to the IPA review. My apologies for not asking for public comment on that. Is there anybody who wished to comment? We'll start out with Zoom. Is there anybody on Zoom wishing to comment on the IPA review recommendations and report?
I see no one on Zoom.
Anybody in chamber who wishes to comment on that? I see none. Okay. So next, so thank you all. This was a good discussion. The next agenda item is J1, the OIR quarterly review. And so, independent auditor, can you please tell us about it? And can we start out with case 2407? Give us a brief summary of it.
Absolutely. So this is your review of cases that were closed in the second quarter of 2025. We have in this report 4 cases, as well as 2 notable developments in the course of the second quarter. The first is case 24-07. In this one, we have a member of the public who alleged that EPD officers had assaulted her and used excessive force during her arrest. EPD initiated a preliminary inquiry and framed allegations related to violation of rights. These, after investigation, were unfounded. We reviewed that case, including all the body-worn camera footage related to it, and there was a significant amount due to the number of officers that responded, as well as surveillance footage. And we found that the complaint investigation was thorough and fair. EPD also conducted a use of force investigation as is part of their regular practice, and that use of force investigation also found the force to be in policy.
Okay.
Any questions or comments?
Any questions or comment on this review? On this case, sorry. Seeing none. So can you please also, independent auditor, give us a brief summary of case 2412?
Sure. In this one, we have a member of the public who reported a new allegation that was related to a previously filed and previously closed complaint case. That incident occurred in 2021. The original investigation was conducted by EPD, determined to be unfounded, and that was closed. The member of the public then reported to the state, the Peace Officer Training and Standards online misconduct site. Same incident, but had a new allegation related to use of force, and in specific, alleging that an EPD officer had broken her shoulder during the use of excessive force in that same case. We had some back and forth because, again, the case had been investigated and closed, but given the new allegation, the nature of the allegation, we determined that it would be appropriate to initiate a new inquiry. EPD did so, re-reviewed the original investigation as well as the body-worn camera footage which had been retained, and found that new allegation to be unfounded. We also reviewed the original inquiry and the new investigation, and we found both of them to be sufficient, complete, and fair in their findings.
Any questions from the board about this case? I have a question. It says that EPD reviewed video footage, police reports, and medical clearance documentation from the incident. I'm just curious to know, what does that medical clearance documentation look like? Does the victim need to provide permission, consent to have access to that information? I would just like some clarification, please.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. When an individual is arrested, if that individual was the subject of force and has a complaint of pain or injury, it is a standard practice within law enforcement to take that individual for clearance to a hospital emergency room or other medical facility. Sometimes that can happen on scene with response of EMTs or an ambulance, but most always it's to the emergency room for that clearance. What it looks like is separate from a medical file. It's a documentation from the staff at that hospital that says that the individual is cleared to be booked. In other words, that individual has no medical emergency or urgency that would require them to be hospitalized or to receive additional medical treatment at that time, and they can be taken for booking. So it's not anything that would be kind of under the HIPAA restrictions or things that the subject or victim would have to release to the department. It's a document that is in tandem with the booking process.
So it's not like you're going in and reviewing people's medical history and that information.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to
Correct.
make sure
Not at
that
all.
was clear. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for that clarifying question.
Any other questions or comments about this case? Seeing none from the board. Can you please tell us more about, give us a summary of case 24-4, please?
Yes. Yeah, so this one, excuse kind of the convoluted sentence. This is an EPD employee who was assigned to a joint task force. So it's a task force with other agencies in the region. That employee self-reported that an allegation had been made against them to the joint task force. And that allegation was claiming unprofessional conduct involving a contact from a partner agency. After discussing this case with us, we determined that it would be appropriate, even though that allegation had been made and was being investigated by the lead task force agency, for EPD to also open its own preliminary inquiry. Really, the main purpose of that was to have the documentation that EPD had taken action, in particular because that EPD employee self-reported it to his command staff. The allegation was unfounded based on the evidence. We found that the inquiry was sufficient and the findings were fair.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Board Member Giventer.
To the extent that you can state in public, what was this task force? What agencies were involved?
I would defer that to Chief Stevens and whatever he believes is appropriate to share in a public forum.
Chief Stevens.
Good afternoon, Mr. Giventer. With all due respect, given the small county that we live in and the task force that we take part in, identifying which task force or which agencies are a part of this task force would identify potentially the officer involved, and that would be a violation of this parameters of what the COPP board and these types of reports are. So I respectfully decline to provide any more information on that task force.
Can you describe in general what was the nature of the incident?
I think it was conduct unbecoming and unprofessionalism is what, in a general term, would have been the complaint that was made back to the task force concerning this agent.
In general, what was the task force doing at the time?
Again, sir, with all due respect, sharing that information would divulge the identity of the officer.
In the third paragraph of the summary here, it states that the lead task force agency investigated the matter, and then goes on to say the lead agency forwarded all investigative material to the Eureka Police Department and subsequently to the independent police auditor. So my question is to both the police chief and the independent police officer, exactly what documents were reviewed?
So I handled the preliminary inquiry into this investigation, just given the nature of it. I handled the correspondence with the task force agency and put together a plan for the investigation. Those involved were interviewed, and information was then written into memorandum forms and shared back with us on the results of those interviews, recordings of those interviews, and other research into the complaints and the background behind that.
Is that what the IPA reviewed?
Yes, Board Member Giventer, it was provided to us in totality.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board on this case? No. Independent auditor, can you please give us a summary of case 2506?
Yes. So in this one, this is an internally generated investigation. This was initiated into allegations of unprofessional off-duty conduct by an employee of the Eureka Police Department. EPD conducted their preliminary inquiry, found the allegations to be exonerated. We found that the investigation and the findings were thorough, fair, and complete, and that the employee's actions did not violate any policies of the department.
Any questions or comments from the board on this? No? Seeing none. In addition to the cases, I was wondering if you can also, at the end of the report, there's notable developments, First Amendment activities. I was wondering if maybe we could go through those sections. Well, there's only two sections, and give us a brief summary.
Sure, absolutely. So the first is related to some comments that Board Member Giventer stated right at the top of the meeting. It was our observation as well that the city of Eureka experienced that increase in protest and demonstration, what we traditionally call First Amendment activity, in distinct contrast to what we saw in other agencies and other cities throughout California, nationwide, in fact. We saw that there was a lot of collaboration with the event organizers. It really reflects that EPD is committed to facilitating this First Amendment activity within your city, while also, of course, prioritizing the safety of both the individuals who are participating, as well as those who just live in the community and are perhaps traveling to and from through your city. So really wanted to highlight here that the police department's response, in our view, was very measured and appropriate, and distinctly different than what we perhaps have been seeing highlighted in the news or otherwise throughout the nation. And the caveat, of course, is that there's two sides to this. Certainly EPD is managing and communicating in an effective way with those individuals seeking to demonstrate, but also the individuals themselves who are engaging in this activity have been predominantly peaceful and organized. They are just choosing to have civic engagement, and really that dynamic of the crowd and their context can shape the law enforcement response, right? So if we're seeing a crowd that is intent on engaging in potentially disruptive criminal activity, the law enforcement response, even if it intends initially to have collaborative approach, might look distinctly different. And so it's two sides of the equation, and we wanted to just highlight that here.
I would like to ask a little bit about this, and obviously we had an incident here yesterday, but I won't get into the details of that. But it kind of dovetails with this report. Is in this protest, we saw that the protest occurred in a corridor that CHP is responsible for, and I also see that, and it seems like there's been quite a few incidences where I question, and I just need some clarity as to whose jurisdiction does it fall under, because we have resources from the CHP, but then we also have resources from Eureka Police Department, and I'm just curious to know how that works.
Chief Stevens can answer that.
So we have a memorandum of understanding with California Highway Patrol in that we respond to all incidents on Highway 101 from a particular area on the south side of town near Herrick Avenue to an area about 200 feet north of Airport Road on Highway 101. So all traffic collisions, all incidents we respond to, as well as part of our street as it turns into the Samoa Bridge. In return, CHP handles all calls for service at state buildings within the city of Eureka's jurisdiction. So we have a trade-off there. So when it comes to these initial responses to incidents along the Highway 101 corridor, we're the primary agency to deal with them. Obviously, we briefed CHP prior to this incident, prior to all of our demonstrations that we know are going to take place, because we know the need for mutual aid may be there, and it is their state highway, and we do have a requirement to notify several individuals when a state highway becomes closed. So we make those notifications, and in this particular event requested assistance from California Highway Patrol just to relieve our officers so that we could do additional things, be prepared for additional activities that may take place that we would need our officers for to deal with in our jurisdiction. We got an immediate, quick response. They took over some of the traffic control points that we had and stayed the entirety of the event. But in general, we're responsible for the city of Eureka and all streets flowing through the city of Eureka.
Great, and it's also great for me to hear that there's certain times that CHP can respond to areas of the city as well, because we see I personally see the CHP cars driving around within our city boundaries.
Yeah. They're great community, or great police partners for sure.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. Any other questions or comments from the board? And this is including you, Board Member Pardoe, as well. Feel free to raise your hand at any point in time. Yes, Board Member Pardoe.
Thank you so much, Chairperson, for giving me this opportunity. I just want to point out the comment that the EPD did not intervene in the protest core activities. Their involvement focused on crowd safety and logistical support, and just how I think important that was. I think it's a difficult decision to close the highway, and anyone who's on a highway when they get delayed, even if it's a tragic accident, gets very frustrated and upset. And so I think that was the right decision. And I think crowd safety, when you have a large crowd, needs to circumvent, override any, sort of potential frustration issues. So I think that was well pointed out, that crowd safety issue and the logistical support to get there, I think was a really important thing that was done with this protest, especially given the large size of the protests. So thank you.
All right. Any other? Yes, Board Member Giventer.
You just pose a hypothetical. As the report indicates, one protest by the county building had an estimate of 3,000 participants. Mm-hmm. And it part of that, the activities of that day necessitated the closure of part of Fifth Avenue. My hypothetical is, what if somehow a filled water bottle was thrown and struck a police officer? What would be the response?
Chief Stevens.
Well, I appreciate the question. Hypotheticals are always tough to answer. Our contingency plans that we brief every time they're attached to our operations plans deal with certain levels of responses based on certain levels of crimes or activities. And when it gets to become, when people begin to get hurt or there are potentially felony vandalism happening, and definitely when we have aggressive activity toward officers, it lends to a different response. And fortunately for us, these current protests we've been dealing with have been conducted in a manner that allows for us to interact within the groups, not as enemies, but as there to, not seen as enemies, but there as to keep them safe. Now, there's always a small contingency of each protest that are anti-police, and we can deal with that. However, our response would have been most likely if we could identify the person, and who knows, the crowd may even helped us identify the person. It may have been something if we had the opportunity without being overextended to deal with. Most likely we would have pulled the officers back to a different location, reassessed what the need of our mission was at that time. Was one bottle enough to cause us to declare this to be an unlawful assembly? Or should we just move back and reassess and leave them to fend for themselves, to be honest with you, at some point? I don't have the manpower or the personnel to deal with large crowds like that. So we have to look at it strategically on what is the importance of our interactions with the community members. And as long as we can keep it to where we can interact on a peaceful manner, keep them safe while they conduct their activities, while illegal, blocking the roadway, it was the right decision to shut the road down that day, because we would have had too many interactions that would have created definitely a public safety issue. So I would have to be in that place at that time, depending on what happened, to make a true decision. But likely we would have moved back to another location to reassess the overall activities of the crowd and come up with a different game plan, maybe of where we're going to place our officers to observe and deal with issues as they arise.
Is the command structure clear to everybody?
Yes, for every operation we have an incident commander. Generally, we have an assistant incident commander, and then we have teams. And those teams are ran by either a senior officer and or a supervisor, generally a supervisor, and then each individual on that team has a responsibility. Some are in reserve, some are on traffic control or traffic observations, waiting for potential of reckless driver activity to happen. And then the rest of us are trying to be visible without being visible, if that makes sense. We don't want a huge presence, but we want people to know that we're close by if they need anything as well.
In your view, is the communication structure satisfactory?
Within the operation itself?
Yes.
Yes. From our standpoint, I think we've done enough of these over the years that we have worked this out. Everybody knows their mission, and the command structure, the incident commander, is available to make on-the-spot decisions because we're on scene during these incidents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay. Independent auditor, can you please go over the tactical disengagement policy, please?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So this was one we highlighted because it is really kind of a model action taken by your chief. The concept of tactical disengagement is one that has been around for several years, but your chief really wanted to solidify that in its own standalone policy. That's something that we're seeing departments move toward, but certainly he was kind of at the forefront of doing so. And the concept of tactical disengagement is this deliberate decision to withdraw from an encounter. And this is similar to the kind of crowd management that we just discussed, is really to reduce kind of the unnecessary risk both to officers and to the individuals involved. And this is most traditionally happening with a barricaded or isolated subject who is on his or her own in a contained location where that decision to disengage from that particular call is made by the chain of command for the safety of everyone involved. And as I mentioned, the chief really has taken a leadership role in crafting a policy that's a standalone policy that really defines very clearly what the parameters of disengagement are, the role of the officers and their supervisors, the types of communication that need to occur, the types of crisis intervention that should be considered. And so we wanted to highlight this because it's something that is emerging in California, and your chief is at the forefront of that. We thought it was a very thoughtful and measured approach to this particular kind of emerging practice and model in California.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Board Member Giventer.
You characterized the tactical disengagement policy standalone. I'm not sure what that means. Is this incorporated into the police policy manual?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. It's a good point of clarification. So other agencies have put tactical disengagement as a paragraph or two inside perhaps like a crisis negotiation policy or a crisis management intervention policy, or even sometimes I've seen it in a use of force policy. This is a state where the tactical disengagement is its own policy, and by that I mean it's numbered individually within the department's manual. So it is within the department's manual, but it is its own policy with respect to kind of the numerical system, if you will. To me, that highlights that the importance of this, that it's not buried, within layers of another policy where an officer may or may not find it or know that it's a tactic that's available to him or her.
I just want to make a comment. The police policy manual now comprises more than 700 pages, and it's online, which I think is a good thing. And I'd like to just reinforce and compliment both the city manager, the IT department, and the police department for keeping that manual online and up to date. The most recent one that I saw was putting in edits as of June 2025, which I think is appropriate. And the fact that it's made public is also very important. Thank you for that.
Okay. Board Member Ciarabellini.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for your added comments at the end of your report for our IPA. That's quite a compliment, actually. I thought it was great to see you able to make those observations and document them in the report, because it's quite a compliment to the police department, I think. And, I just want to read for the record, for the public, your last paragraph here that says this policy demonstrates a commitment to thoughtful, measured policing that values officer safety and community trust. It serves as a model for how agencies can operationalize discretion and restraint without compromising public safety. So that is a great compliment, I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question. So we have this tactical disengagement policy. So when is it determined whether on the scene when to disengage or use of force for people to comply? And I'm wondering if maybe Chief Stevens could help answer that question.
Yeah, I'll do my best. I don't think that the two are comparable. I don't think you look at tactical disengagement versus use of force, because our goal is not to use force, right? No matter what we do, even if we stay on scene and continue down a path of crisis negotiations, even if we use SWAT, even if we breach a door, the idea is at some point to gain compliance and or be able to make that arrest or that, take that person into custody without any force being used. So the two aren't comparable. It's the totality of the circumstance, though, of what we're facing at the time, and what's that risk if we disengage to the public, to the person, and to the community as a whole. And there's a lot of weight that goes into that decision because we can't look into the future. This isn't something new that we are doing as a police department. We've been doing this the entire 26 years I've been here. We've walked away from calls. We walk away from people on the street right now that aren't creating a crime or causing a problem, but they're called into us and they don't want our assistance and they walk away. We let them walk away. The purpose of the policy is to give the supervisors, give the officers the backing to make that decision, the direction to make that decision, and the need to document on certain high-level calls on why we're making that decision. So that's the purpose of the policy. That's the purpose of the tactical disengagement. We speak of disengagement in crisis negotiations and de-escalation, but we didn't give them a definition of what disengagement looks like. We didn't give them that clear direction. And there are some of us who have been here for a year or two who have knowledge and have seen these happen in the past and can walk through that prior experience and make those decisions. But we have a lot of new supervisors, a lot of young officers, and we need to give them that clear direction. And this was that clear direction that I wanted to push out. The commanders wanted to push out so that our supervisors are making decisions on scene that we can stand behind as a department.
When that's kind of from a person who doesn't know what happens behind the scenes, whenever you see an officer using force, that's going to be the biggest question that it gets asked. Why didn't this officer disengage and take other approaches versus the use of force? And I'm also, my question too is, what kind of training is involved internally regarding disengagement?
Sure. We just did we do StratCom, so strategic communications classes. We do de-escalation classes. We just did a StratCom class the other day. This was built into that StratCom class now. So as a part of the de-escalation policy, a part of the de-escalation training, now we're going to teach the disengagement policy. The policy, once it was finalized and pushed out, was first given to our supervisors at our supervisors meeting, and then they took it back to their watches, the entire department. We required them to go over it, train it with their people, and then there's an attestation sheet that they signed off on so that we have a training record to show that they actually completed this policy. That's, it's different in some policies. Some policies will let them do it online, but this is one that we wanted to discuss from a supervisory level with their people, because that's who they're going to be making the decisions with. And we want to make sure those questions were answered ahead of time. They're not making them on the street or at a barricaded subject and asking the why behind it. So that's the training that went behind the policy, and that will continue to happen as we move forward with additional de-escalation and strategic communication classes.
And how often do officers get trained in de-escalation and disengagement?
The strategic communication piece, which both of those are built into, is required by post as part of the 2-year training cycle. So we have to have so many hours every 2 years completed by each officer in a set of training curriculum. And this is one of them that has to be done every 2 years. And we have to report back to post that we've done it.
Okay. Well, thank you for clarifying that. Boardmember Pardoe, are there any, I would like to include you or ask you if you have any questions or comments regarding these items.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess we do, in Chairperson Novello, in regards to your comment, we do seem to have a real world example here in case number 24-07. I'd be interested in the IPA's input and the chief's input on this case and why the supervisor decided to intervene. I certainly have my feelings. It seems appropriate, but I'd be interested on the tactical disengagement policy and why in this case there was a decision to intervene.
Go ahead, Independent Auditor Magula.
Yeah, so in this case, the call was in response to a felony warrant subject on scene. So this was one where, and Chief Stevens can certainly jump in on this, but in our review of it, felony warrant is something that is a public safety risk, and one that the officers were called to execute on that day.
Okay. Any other questions from the board or comments? No? Okay. I would like to bring it out to public comment on is there anyone who wishes to comment regarding the OIR Group Quarterly Review Report? Anybody in chambers wishing to comment? Seeing none. Anybody in Zoom wishing to comment, please raise your hand.
I see no one on Zoom.
Thank you. Okay. So let's move on to the next agenda item, which is our complaint log. Independent auditor, can you please give us a summary of the complaint log?
Sure, absolutely. This is one that is a recurring item. It is a log that is tracking all of the complaints that are received by the Eureka Police Department. It's intended to provide that transparency to members of the public as well as to the board with respect to what is being investigated and the timeliness of those investigations. So you'll see here that this time I did it in reverse order so that you're seeing the newer cases up top. Those would be the things that have come in the past quarter or so. And you'll see that we've reported on 4 of those and several are still in progress. They have plenty of time on the 1-year statute of limitations for that review to be complete.
Okay. Any board member comments on Board Member Giventer?
I see that there are 14 items here that are pending or in progress, one of which dates back to 2023. So I just wanted to ask, how are you doing?
Well, the items that are showing in progress would be those items that are in progress by the police department in their investigation. Certainly there's a balance of resource allocation. As you know, your department does not have a dedicated professional standards unit. These are commanders and supervisors that are tasked with the actual day-to-day operations as well. We feel that they are well within kind of the statute in most of these cases. In the cases where something has fallen out of statute, there was a determination and discussion between us and command staff as to that decision-making process. And it really was dependent on the nature of the complaint and the potential outcomes and findings for that case. So we find that it's appropriate and the department is in contact with us about those cases.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Board Member Pardoe, do you have any questions or comments? No? Okay. I have a question on page 3. There are the second and third one from the top. There's 2 allegations of some kind of use of force that a complainant made, and just looking at when it was received, my question is, we're already reaching a year that these complaints occurred. My question is, why is it taking us this long for those 2? Why haven't we reviewed these by now, since we're approaching that 1-year mark of potential discipline of an officer? And I'm not suggesting that you discipline the officers. I'm not suggesting that, but I'm just wondering why haven't these reports been done yet?
I can answer for those 2, I believe, specifically. And I will tell you that every complaint that comes in, the commanders where I watch all the body camera video, I then have a conversation with the IPA when I update the complaint log in reference to if there are any concerning factors to these complaints. That's part of the problem with the limited amount of information that we can provide in a public forum, is I can't give you all the background behind some of the stuff. One of those complaints was not our agency. We were there, we made the arrest, but taking the person out of the car is part of the DUI investigation, which she was already out of the car, sitting on the bumper of a car when we got there. Had nothing to do with us. She fled through a DUI checkpoint and got stopped by an agency that was assisting with that. She tried to walk away. They had her sit on the bumper of a car. We arrived. She made the complaint against us. So I can't put all that in the complaint log to explain that much, but the IPA knows it, and we've determined those to be preliminary inquiries just to document our findings and review the body camera, review the reports, and put those into there. we're taxed. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm not making excuses, but I mean, this process opens up the community to make complaints, and we investigate those complaints. There's several people in the audience today, supervisors, who have several of these that they're trying to get done, as well as the commanders. So if there is a complaint that we see that has concerning information in it that could lead to a policy violation, it will be handled and investigated differently than those that we have reviewed, and we find no initial findings of any type of officer misconduct or any policy violations, just because of that time and the amount that we're trying to get through and investigate.
Okay.
But I can tell you there are no policy violations in those two pending matters because they've already been reviewed, and that's why they're being dealt with as preliminary inquiries.
Okay. Thank you. Independent Auditor Magula, is there anything you would like to add to that? Or
Yeah, I mean, I'll add, and we've said this in previous reports, and I just mentioned it a moment ago. This is a small department, and these individuals who are being tasked with the investigations have operational duties on a day-to-day basis. I'm not trying to minimize the importance of investigating these complaints, but certainly the resource allocation is they're doing the best they can. And to echo the chief's comments, this is something that we are regularly in communication about. We're reporting out to you on a quarterly basis, but the chief and I have more regular communication about the cases as they come in, asking questions about whether or not we feel that the allegations are correct, that they framed the nature and the potential findings. And so we're having these discussions really at the top of these complaints being received by the department, and kind of determining that resource allocation to those complaints and investigations that have a potential for discipline on the back end, and those are certainly prioritized appropriately. So it's really a balancing act, and we feel that our engagement is continuous and appropriate, and the level of transparency here with providing this type of log is also commendable, because the information is there for both your review and review by the public.
okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments from the board regarding the complaint investigation log? See, none. The next one.
Public comment.
Oh, public comment. Thank you. Is there any? I'd like to open this up for public comment on the independent police auditor complaint and investigation log. Anybody in chambers wishing to comment? See none. Anybody in Zoom wishing to comment?
I see no one on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. All right. Next item is a recommendation log. Independent auditor, can you please introduce this to us?
Yes, so these are recommendations that come out of our reviews, and the majority of these, actually all of them, are items that you have seen previously. The department has accepted and is either in progress or is completed the majority of these recommendations. And so as we have new audits, we may have new recommendations to add to this log that we can work with the department on implementing if they accept them. As of today, there's nothing new since our last meeting.
Okay. Any board questions or comments? Board Member Giventer.
On page 1, the third and fourth item, the third item refers to incident action plan that is intended to precede any known activity or mass gathering. The fourth item refers to a mutual aid agreement. My question is, what is the status of those items? It indicates here that they've been completed, but are copies available? Are they part of the policy manual? Exactly where would we find those documents?
Yeah, so it's my understanding that the incident action plan is a template that's been produced for use, and that the mutual aid agreement. I believe it's a 1 or 2 page document that I thought that Chief Stevens presented in a previous meeting, but happy to loop back and provide that information through the city manager's office.
Chief Stevens, do you wish to comment on that?
Concerning the incident action plan, those are our operations plans. That's what we have put together that we use, that everybody knows in our department where to find them, and they're templated out for different types of activities, whether it's a search warrant, a protest, any type of arrest we make. So they're all consistent with the same contingency plans on the back, depending on what the type of service or what the type of operation is. The mutual aid thing, MOU, I have not completed that yet. It's a larger discussion with, we have to deal with all the county chiefs and the sheriff to come up with that, and making sure that we have the proper documentation by law and what some of the codes that are required for that. So I have a template for it. I have one that was from, I want to say 2008 that the county signed. I just need to go through and make sure that those same codes are still applicable today, so that I can present it to Eureka and then get signed off on by all the department heads within the county. We still have a verbal understanding and are always willing to assist and understand that each agency's jurisdiction is their jurisdiction, and whatever requests they make is us responding to assist, as we're at their beck and call to help with that within our own policy and guidelines.
So what I hear is that at some point there will be a document that will be a mutual aid agreement.
Yes, it'll be very generic. It won't give great details because it's such a fluid operation. But yes, it will be signed by all the department heads in the county.
And your estimate as to the timeline for that?
I will have it to you by the end of the year for sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Board Member Pardoe, I'm also looking at you too. If you have any questions or comments, please unmute yourself. Nope. Okay. So I'd like to open it up for the public to comment on the recommendations log, and anyone in chambers from the public wishing to comment on the recommendation log. Seeing none. Anybody on Zoom who wishes to comment on the recommendations log?
I see no one on Zoom.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I'd like to assess the board. How are you all feeling? Do you all need like a quick 5-minute bio break, or do you wish to continue? Continue? All right. Thank you for comfortable chairs. So, all right. So next, the next item on our agenda is the police chief report. Chief Stevens, can you please provide us with your report?
All right, good afternoon again, everyone. I'll start talking while they're pulling up the presentation. It seems like it's been a while since I've been here, so I want to thank Commander LaFrance for covering for me last time and doing such a good job. We're halfway or in the second quarter of the year. We've seen some huge improvements in a lot of different categories within the department. We've had a lot of changes as well, and some good things happening moving forward. And so I want to present all that to you tonight. I'm going to do the best I can to run through it. We've already covered some of it. And then we'll have a presentation of a new piece of equipment at the very end that we're going to be implementing very shortly, that I think will be very beneficial to our officers and to some individuals we have to deal with on the streets. All right, so we're going to go over some numbers first. So in January, we switched commander's roles. So Commander LaFrance took over patrol operations. Commander Urbane took over all special teams, CSET, CIU. And we changed kind of the mission of the department. Commander LaFrance and everybody recognized the fact that, we have been more of a reactive department due to staffing and coming out of COVID, and because just things haven't changed. So it was time for a reset within our own department. Our staffing's getting better. While we're still on mandatory 12.5s, we're able to staff more people on those. Our special teams have more bodies on them now. So we looked at the need to make a change in how we address some issues within the city. I supported Commander LaFrance in his endeavors to move forward with a more traffic-heavy enforcement-based type operation, and I think we're starting to see the results of that. So it's not just traffic stops that lead to tickets or lead to reduce any traffic collisions, but also there are a lot of investigations that result out of vehicles being stopped and finding out who's inside. But overall, we've seen a drop in numbers within the department. So these are all comparisons between 24 and 25 for the second quarter from April to June. We've seen a 10% decrease in calls for 911, 10% decrease in the overall non-emergency calls coming into our communications center. Our calls for service overall are down by 6%. Our officer initiated activity is up 95% for the quarter. Our traffic stops are up 292%, so we really have taken the approach of addressing traffic issues within the city. And our bike pet stops are up 833%. Our total cases are up only 2%. Our felony arrests are up 2%. And then our misdemeanor arrests are down 9%. Traffic collisions are down by 5, so 14%. Criminal collisions, however, are up 35%, and these are hit and runs or DUI traffic collisions that result in some type of criminal charge at the end. Our traffic stops overall are up 292%. Our DUI arrests are up 69%. So even though we're having more of those criminal collisions, we are out there enforcing more and making more DUI arrests. And then our citations are up 136%. And before anybody asks, or we're trying to just create revenue for the city and the department, we literally get $12 back from every speeding ticket, and we get $1.50 back for every red light violation. So we will never make enough money to pay for anything with those type of funds. So we've also seen an increase, though, in our mental health calls for service. So they're up 21%. Our holds are up 100% for that same quarter, up to 36%. And our diversion rate is down slightly 4%. I can explain some of this. I can explain probably all of it, to be honest with you. So a couple things have happened. We've added the Old Town officer in January, and we know Old Town is where the majority of our population is that is in the need of assistance for mental health services. So they've had more of a direct contact with individuals and be able to address issues more quickly. And some of that requires holds and other types of activities take place. They're also working directly with CARE, and we have a lot of individuals downtown that have been needing some long-term assistance. And to get long-term assistance, such as being conserved, you have to do multiple holds on individuals, get them into the system, get them processed through to a point to where the courts get involved, and then a conservatorship can be placed on, which is the betterment for the person involved. So that is where we're seeing the more calls for service. We're seeing the more holds because we're taking a more direct approach to trying to deal with some of the individuals that need our assistance. In June, we also recognized the need to try to make some changes around the Free Meal area, St. Vincent de Paul, 2nd Street, 3rd Street A, due to the crime. We've seen a rise in crime down there. We've seen a rise in issues at Free Meal with them closing down just because the activity was too disruptive, and a lot of complaints from those trying to work businesses and live down there. So Commander Rabang, Uplift work together to do more resource fairs every Wednesday for the entire month. So we take direct services down there. CSET embedded themselves at Free Meal, having lunch with people, having those conversations, trying to get to the bottom of what their needs were. We also seen the opening of Betty's Village down at the Hillficker at the end of that month. So a lot of those individuals were staying close to that area just to have resources by our outreach workers, have contact with them. So when that did open, we could get them housed quickly. So we addressed that area with the goal being that we could remove and solve a lot of those issues in the month of June. So there was a really aggressive approach to try to utilize all these resources we had that were coming to prevail with us right now and really get assistance down there and make a difference. And I think we have. We've seen a real change in the behavior down there, the lower crime rate, just not as many people hanging out there because they've been housed or they've gotten services other places. In June, we went live with online reporting. This was an opportunity for us not only to take some of the calls away from the officers, the non-suspect calls, it also is a community improvement process by which if you are waiting to make a report of a minor theft of something that was stolen out of your yard, you don't have to sit in our lobby for 3 or 4 hours. You don't have to wait at your house for a phone call back based on we're prioritizing calls. It may be 4 or 5 hours before you call you back. You can make these reports online that don't have suspects. You get an incident number. You get all the things you need for your insurance company. And we're still able to document that report. These are the types of crimes or incidents that those can be reported online to us. So since June, we've had 43 of these. So not a huge number, but it's 43 we didn't have to necessarily respond to. 31 actually returned into some type of incident that was reported to us. 3 of those cases actually had information in them that could be followed up on, and so those incidents were forwarded to a sergeant for review and then to an officer or to a CSO for further follow-up to see if we could make a case. And then 9 were completely out of our jurisdiction, just somebody tried to report something that didn't fall within the city of Eureka boundaries. After several years, we applied this year for some Measure Z funds for safety equipment. We were fortunate to get awarded $31,949 and a few cents. Our ask was for safety equipment for our patrol officers, so we are able to purchase 2 breaching kits. Breaching kits are a backpack of tools used to get into doors, open doors, do things like that we need. We have some of this equipment, but it's not as readily available because it's stored in a central location. By obtaining these additional items, now we're able to have sergeant's cars with all of this equipment in there, so we have them on duty every day out there available to the officers in the field. We also obtained 4 ballistic shields and 2 ballistic blankets. And ballistic blankets are a high-level threat blanket that's about 8 feet wide by 8 feet, and then we can cover the front windshield of a patrol car to use it as a command post. All kinds of applications for this, but it really does increase the safety of those, especially on barricaded subjects, long scenes where we're trying to be close enough to talk to them, close enough to try to negotiate, but we want to make sure we keep our people safe and put them behind safe barriers. So I want to thank the county for that and the city for getting all the insurance information for us so we can get that purchased. We've been very fortunate this year with grants. Grants are a way that we fund special operations within the city and the department. We've either been awarded or tentatively awarded. And when I say tentatively for a couple of these, they have notified us by email and letter that you are going to get this award. We just have not got the final letter that has to be signed off by council yet, but that's just coming because of most of them are October budget years. So one of them is the Cannabis Tax Fund. This is a new one for us. This will allow us, this is from CHP, this will allow us to do 2 DUI checkpoints, 24 DUI saturation patrols, get a DUI message board, 3 mobile analyzers for the purposes of determining someone's utilized marijuana during a field sobriety test, and send 10 officers to training. The second one is the Office of Traffic Safety Grant. This is one we've been receiving for several years for $70,000. Again, it's tentative. I've been notified. I'm just waiting for the final letter. These types of grants, this grant particularly, we use targeted saturation. So we do red light violations, we do cell phone violations, we do motorcycle enforcement. Depending on OTS sends us a guideline of traffic safety months and things they want us to focus on. So we help with that. We also do DUI operations, and we purchase equipment for patrol and for traffic enforcement. This is a new one, DOJ tobacco grant for $179,000. Again, this is tentative. It's spanned over 3 years. It's for enforcement operations of our smoke shops, basically, to ensure that they're complying with the tobacco state licensing, also not selling marijuana, mushrooms, all the other things that we've been finding at some of our smoke shops. And it's also be used for education and outreach for the businesses. We want businesses to be in compliance, so DOJ will help us with that along with other local agencies that are going to help us as a task force and work with this grant to address the issues we have in Eureka. And the last one is the ABC grant, the Alcohol Policing Partnership Program for $44,000. Again, this is one have gotten on a regular basis. We do inspections of businesses to make sure their alcohol licenses are up to date. We do operations such as shoulder taps with minor decoys to make sure that they're complying with state law. So that's the total of our grants for this year, and all those will be brought back to council for final approval, and we can report out on those however the COPP board would like us to as far as when the operations start in October. We've discussed the disengagement policy, so I'm going to just move through this one. And then staffing. So currently we're down one school resource officer position. We do have someone that's applied, passed their oral board, but they want to come as a lateral officer. They want to come and see Eureka first and see what the job entails, what the city's like. So we're waiting on that. Our missed officer also left, so we have one vacancy on CSET. Both of those officers left for Cal Poly Humboldt. We have currently 2 officers on field training. Like Member Ciarabellini said, they just graduated from the police academy, started this week on their field training program. We have 3 recruits in this current academy. They're all doing well at this point, and they just started Mod 2. Currently, we have 3 recruits projected for the January academy. All 3 of those are coming from our CSO and or animal control officer positions within our department. So while that's a great thing, it also presents new challenges for us to try to backfill. So working on some future plans for that. We have 3 vacancies in dispatch. We have 3 people in backgrounds for those. We just hired 1 new dispatcher that will start on August 4th, which is exciting. We have 1 vacancy in records. And then the future. So going into this budget year, we looked at our budget, we looked at the positions we have and the need of the department, worked with the city manager and HR, and decided to remove the assistant chief's position from our allotment of positions, and we added another sergeant's position. Twofold going into 2026. We look at going to a different schedule, going back to at least a 4-10, 3-12.5 schedule. So one half of the week will work 4 10-hour days, and then the other half of the weekend most likely will work 3 12.5-hour days. Again, we're trying to get away from those mandatory 12.5s, give relief to our personnel and be able to, yeah, they really need it. So we're trying to do that with the ultimate goal of going to 4-10s across the board so we can build in more training days, which then relieve some of the issues we have with some of the complaints, be able to train more, document more training. We're also going to promote or assign an administrative sergeant. So we'll have 5 sergeants on patrol, and then we'll move someone into one of our senior sergeants into an administrative sergeant position. This will help in a couple areas. One, they'll directly respond to and be under the commanders and myself, so they'll be a part of the command team. They'll be able to help with a myriad of tasks around the department, but it's also for succession planning. We're not getting any younger at the top, and we need people that know the position, understand the position, and can move into the position. So there'll be a whole list of duties that they'll have, but also to mentor younger officers or younger sergeants, because that's what we're promoting right now. I think most of our sergeant corps below 2 in this room probably have less than 3 years on as supervisors. So again, we need those mentors, those senior sergeants, to be able to have direct contact with them. So that's kind of the direction we're going with the department. So if you see that change in the salary schedule and or our budget, that's where it came from and the reason behind it. Any questions on that before I turn it over to a 2-minute video and to my defensive tactics team to show the new piece of equipment?
So are there any questions for Police Chief Stevens? I have a question. So obviously I think it's great to see that our numbers are going up in terms of traffic violations and even bicycle violations. So my question is, how is it that you're finding the staffing to be able to do patrolling? Because in previous meetings we've heard that staffing is low, but then now we're hearing that there's been more and more citations, and in the past we've heard that patrolling has not been really a high priority on the list. So
it's a cultural change. It's a mission change. It's not necessarily a staffing change. We have added people. If we look at minus the people in the academy or the people going to the academy, I have maybe 4 positions left, 3 maybe at the most. So when you look at our overall staffing, we're only 3 down on paper. We've added people to our overall ranks, which is good. But the biggest part of it is it's a culture change. We set a new mission for the department. We set new goals for our supervisors and our officers to go out and address certain areas that we want them to address. And we're holding them accountable to that. And we're encouraging that and rewarding that on the other end for being proactive, for being out there, and really just cut the reins loose and let them go do police work again. And that's the mindset change coming out of COVID and coming out of staffing is, people, while tired, still find motivation in the fact that they love the job they do and they want to go out and do it. And they're crime fighters, and that's what they want to go do, and they want to go find issues. So we've cut the reins loose. We've given them the green light to go and do special projects, part of their team. The sergeants have green lights to set up special operations as part of their watch when they have time. And you can see as we increase certain things, it seems like calls for service are going down. Is that a direct correlation? Again, I think stats can be manipulated anyway. I'm just giving you the raw numbers of what I have. But I think you can show that traffic collisions are down, calls for service are down. If you look at the comments, and what I really base our performance on is when you look at the community and you get the feedback from the community, I don't care what the numbers are on paper. If they're happy and they're seeing a change, and all I hear is when I go out places is I see more cops on the street, I see you doing traffic stops, I see you at events, they feel safer, then our department is doing what is needed for our community right now to make them feel safer and police Eureka the way Eureka wants to be policed. And I think that's what we're doing.
And I think that's great that that is part of the goal, because that's one of the big things that people want. They want to be able to feel safe walking and doing activities within the community. And I think you're also monitoring for those people who may not necessarily are in that right mindset, who have a different agenda. And so thank you for increasing the monitoring and surveillance aspect of things. So, my next question that I have is for the COPP logic. Is that what it's
Yeah.
called? Yeah. So how does that work? Because I've seen online that you can make the report online. How soon will there be a response when someone makes an initial report on there?
So our records division is responsible for receiving those reports in that format. So it's either our records manager or their supervisor. And then it's the next day. So Monday through Friday, it's that morning. It's the first thing they do in the morning is pull the reports offline to see if there's anything that needs to be followed up on. If it's on a Monday morning, they're pulling everything from the weekend. So it's getting immediate attention. Because there are opportunities for tips and other things to come in, so it benefits us to make sure we're looking at that stuff in a timely manner. But also we want to be able to have that correspondence back. As soon as somebody submits the report, they get a CAD number or some type of incident number. It's when we move that into our permanent system is when they get the final number that we send to them. So that's where the review has to come in. They get an initial report number that they have submitted it to us. We have to do the review to make sure that all the information is there. It meets, there's an actual crime that it meets, and then we move that into our system for final documentation. And that's when they get their actual incident number from us.
And given the system, is there a way to follow up? Does a person who made the report, will they receive a message besides just, this message or this report has been received? Is there some kind of notice that is provided to the person?
Yeah, they get the report number back. If there's information that needs to be followed up on, like there was missing information that we need to make a final report, then we have all their contact information like we would for any other report, and our record staff reaches out to them, or it gets assigned down to an officer or CSO to follow up with a person to make sure we got accurate information. And if there's suspect information or the solvability of this incident is high, then it gets forwarded down to a sergeant to review and assigned to someone to try to follow up on.
Okay. Well, I'm just glad to hear that, again, that something is being done and that person who made that notification is being notified of what happened from the report that they made.
Absolutely.
Any other questions or? Yes.
Boardmember Pardoe has his hand raised.
Yes, Boardmember Pardoe.
Yes, thank you. A couple comments. The first comment, I missed the board presentation earlier, and pertinent to this conversation by the chief. I've been to the Friday night markets. I really commend the chief and his team They are a constant presence at the Friday night market, and I commend the city manager as his team as well have made those a rousing success. I am just amazed by the number of people down there, and it's not that there are not incidents happening. I've seen each night, I've seen the police have an incident that they've addressed quietly and without much disruption. So I think that's been a real benefit, and I think that shows that community policing really helping. And then the second one is I want to commend the chief on his presentation. I think the independent police auditor said it well earlier that this is a small department, and this board and the city council and the community has asked a lot of this department. I think it's shows this presentation the chief's commitment. I was very impressed by the details and the information, and also, I wondered if the chief put this presentation together with the clicking on the boxes, or if he had help with that part of the presentation.
I will absolutely give credit where credit is due. During a recent meeting, Commander LaFrance said, "Chief, I don't ever want you to do another presentation because you don't do it right." So I said, "Okay, Commander LaFrance, you can do my presentations for me." And he done an excellent job on this, and I really appreciate it. In addition, being the patrol commander, he's responsible for the stats, and he's monitoring the sergeants. So he has these numbers readily available to him, does it twice a month, and reports back to them as well. So we're keeping them in the loop so we can keep this momentum going forward, and everybody knows where they are. So, no, Commander LaFrance has done a great job, and I appreciate you throwing me under the bus for not being able to put together a PowerPoint there, Dr. Pardoe.
Yes, thank you, Chief.
Yes, Board Member Giventer.
May I request a copy of your presentation?
Yes, I can forward it to you, yes.
Thank you.
Through Shannon or through the city manager.
Are there any other questions from the board or comments?
All right.
Okay.
So this is the last part. So we did a presentation, or got a presentation from a company that creates this safety device called a wrap. And this is nothing new. It's been around 20 years. Arcada's used it. Fortuna's had, I think, one of the first ones from 20 years ago. And something maybe we should have looked at. Maybe we did look at it before, just from staff or from financial standpoints, didn't move forward, but I made the decision to move forward now. With the help of an officer, it's been a couple agencies and used it and really spelled out the benefits for us and how it could help us. So I'm going to show this little 2-minute video on what they're going to show you. And then if it pleases the board, we would like to just do a quick demonstration. If anybody wants to volunteer to be put into it, we can make that happen as well. But we will do it out here and try to make it so everybody can see it. So, but I'll start with the video
caught
first.
On camera involving law enforcement and the public have sparked debates on the use of excessive force. The Cedar Park Police Department hopes a new device will help them minimize force used in all cases. Today, KXAN's Amanda Brandeis got a first-hand look at how it works.
This is going to be the ankle strap.
For officers like Robert Ducrow's, routine calls can turn hostile without warning.
When there's intoxication involved, there's surprises everywhere.
So we asked the department to buy these devices called the Wrap.
It controls our use of force. Once we have the person under control, our use of force is pretty much, it ceases at that time.
Once a person is wrapped, they can't hurt themselves or officers. I was able to test it out and see how it works. First, officers put on the ankle straps, which prevent the person from kicking. The second piece is for their legs, and the last is for the upper body.
We'll have an officer push forward.
Officer Ducrow says it's safer to restrain people upright in seating as opposed to face down.
The last time that I applied it, that I sustained the ankle injury, if that would have gone on, I would probably escalate to a taser at that time. And we didn't have to go there because of this.
And as tensions between police and the public remain high, simple solutions like this may help solve some complex problems. Amanda Brandeis, KXAN News.
While this gear is new in Cedar Park, the Wrap device was created nearly 20 years ago. The company says no deaths or injuries have resulted from its use.
So just real quick on this, I see this as an advantage for us in a couple ways. Use of forces aren't pretty. People that want to fight us that are having issues, they're not going to be pretty. But once we can get them on the ground and we can utilize a tool like this to get them secured, what we can do is limit the amount of injuries they suffer during transport, make the transport easier, but even more importantly, limit the number of injuries. Hopefully our officers may suffer from trying to transport or lift somebody that's being combative, because you never know, they may be completely compliant, drop their weight, throw somebody's back out, throw a knee out. So hopefully there's a couple of advantages. In the future, we'll see the outcomes and the benefits to us through the lack of injuries, both to those that we're trying to assist with this and with our officers. So I would like to turn it over to Detective Sergeant Cernich, who's our DT instructor, primary DT instructor, and whoever else is going to help him to do a quick demonstration for you, and then that will conclude our presentations unless there's any additional questions.
What do you need to?
Can we use one of those mics so we can talk while he's...
Is there a camera that we could aim towards them?
You know what? Can we get the Zoom line? Yeah, he might be able to do the.
Yeah.
Mind if we move around? To get
No,
out?
please, you go right ahead. Yeah.
Or maybe move some of those chairs back right there that are.
I'm wondering, actually, if we do it right here.
Oh.
I don't know if there's enough room.
That would be on camera, though. But otherwise, we could just do it out there.
I think we can utilize that space there.
Yeah. Let's do that.
I've been in too many of these.
And we would love a volunteer. Nobody's gonna Yeah.
That's one reason I retired.
I think it's necessary to have input from somebody unbiased in this regard.
How many of you officers do you think's gonna take? Yeah, sure. Do you want to face down or? I would like to face down, please. Yeah. All right. Okay. Are you okay with getting handcuffs? Sure, why not? You know, I have no choice. So I'd like to be the flat. Put your hand there. All right. You gotta take a picture. Why? I appreciate that.
So if I can,
We can send it to the Moscow South and Human Rights Commissioner gets arrested.
so if I can,
Because in the video, there's only one.
if I can kind of walk the officers through it and discuss sort of what we're doing here. In order to use this wrap device, it's required that the individual who's being detained in the device actually be handcuffed first. So above and beyond, that has to occur. Once someone is handcuffed, once somebody is handcuffed, then it becomes, we give the ability to implement the device. Generally speaking, it's going to be something that we utilize with 3 officers. It requires that we have developed control of the feet and the legs, as well as upper body control, usually where that 3rd officer will come in and bring the wrap with us. We're not going to respond to every traffic stop with a wrap stuck over our shoulder, so it's going to require that somebody introduce that to our scene. So once that person isn't handcuffed and we've developed control of their feet and upper body, that's when we have the opportunity to come in and use the wrap. The wrap itself, as we'll demonstrate for you, it's designed to keep you in a recovery position, to minimize any compression on your chest, to minimize that the breathing issues that are common with laying in that position. So that being said, why don't we go ahead and work our way through it?
Trigger the use of the wrap. Why not just transport me as is?
Sure. Erratic behaviors. Oftentimes, what we're trying to prevent with the use of this device is those individuals who may be handcuffed and potentially we're walking them to the police car and they decide, they're going to passively resist by dropping all their body weight. Well, when an officer has to control that person, if they're holding onto their arms and they drop their body weight, that can create a lot of stress on that person's shoulders. We want to avoid that type of injury to them. Just last week, we had an incident where the officers had a handcuffed person and they were walking them towards the police car. As they approached the police car, that person was agile enough to step up onto the side of the police car and push off with their legs. This will prevent that kind of an issue. We had last week somebody try to wrap a seatbelt around their neck while they were in the back of a police car. So this will also help with that. People that are needing to go to the hospital, this device can be used on a gurney. So they can be secured on a gurney during transport in conjunction with this. So there's a variety of instances where we can use this to prevent somebody from kicking out a police car windows. Every year we sustain significant damage to a number of our patrol cars because people are in the back seat kicking them out.
Seems to me that pushing off a police car is a spontaneous action on the part of a suspect who otherwise seems to be compliant. So how do you know when to apply that device?
Well, some of that behavior we can predict based on our initial contact and the arrest. We're not going to put everybody in the wrap. So if somebody is initially compliant and they're in the back of a police car and they begin to kick out the windows, then we can stop, we can summon more resources to our scene, and then we can apply that wrap to hopefully mitigate that from occurring more. We can't predict every single situation, unfortunately. Larry, you're asking a lot of questions for being in handcuffs right now. I'm trying to speed this along for you, sir, but
You still haven't said why I'm being.
So the wrap device is it's used. We implement it when somebody's down, face down on the ground. They are handcuffed. So let's go ahead and help Larry down and apply the wrap. So the wrap's composed of 4 different components. The first component that is involved, it's called an ankle strap. So it's necessary that the officer applies this first. It's going to keep the ankles locked together to establish that initial portion of control. The next component is a knee harness. This is the device that's going to keep anyone from being able to kick their legs or get up, utilize their hips to get up. This gets slid underneath the detainee.
Would there be somebody up here patrolling?
Yes, so generally speaking, we have one officer that's maneuvering those buckles, and we have somebody on the upper body controlling the top. Yes.
Is there a weight?
Thank you. No way I'm gonna do that for real.
Requirement? Like, you can only be, you have to be under a certain amount, or this could be pretty much available.
So it's advertised as it fits nearly everyone. I can tell you that Officer Huffman over there, he's a former offensive lineman for HSU, and he goes in it no problem. So this third component, it's the back strap. This is what helps keep the detainee seated upright in a recovery position once it's fully applied. So from this position, we're going to strap Larry in. He's going to be buckled and he's going to be left in an upright position. That's the goal that we want him in. Now the fourth component is the helmet. This is to help mitigate injuries of the detainee from hitting their head.
Hey, did you ever think you'd be looking like this, Larry?
We gotta make sure we put it on camera.
Where we going?
Wow.
So once we have this device applied, we ask our officers to do a number of things. The first thing is to reach into that chest component just to make sure that there's space in there. We want to make sure that Larry has the opportunity to expand his lungs and airway and be able to breathe so he's not restricted. Beyond that, we're going to ask him if we'd like to check their breathing. We can certainly ask, but holding a hand down in front of their face to feel the exhale of breath, just to make sure that they're breathing adequately and appropriately. We also want to, at this point, ask them, can you breathe okay? Not everyone's going to respond to us, but we want to the extent possible, we want them to articulate to us that they're doing fine. Now I will ask you, Larry. Larry, I'm not going to ask you if you're comfortable. Oh, yeah. Larry, are you in pain?
No.
Okay. Do you feel like you're being controlled?
Oh, definitely.
Do you feel that you have the ability to resist further?
I'm not trying to, but yeah, I think I could move, give him a hard time, but wouldn't be successful.
So we've all been in this numerous times. It's not a painful device. It's not designed to be painful. It's supposed to be snug. You're supposed to be able to feel that you're being controlled, but it's not designed to be painful, and it's generally not. You saw how a couple officers could quickly and easily move Larry, pick him up, spin him around. Not a huge deal.
Now, are you concerned, what about people who have back or physical injuries, injuries to the arms or legs?
We generally hope that those people don't fight with the police, but when we do, we feel this is as safe, appropriate device to try to control them. Obviously, priority, we don't want to injure anyone's back, but our priority is maintaining their vital systems, airway, circulation, things of that nature. Yeah, have a hand in Larry.
I want you to know that it took 3 guys. How many of these devices do you have?
I believe we have 4 of these devices currently.
Each sergeant?
Yes, likely for each field sergeant. I think ideally we'll probably have one with our CSET team as well, given the number of individuals that they encounter who are in crisis. We think it's be a valuable tool for them as well.
You said it was first used by Fortuna?
I think Fortuna was the first agency locally to implement it.
How often did they use it?
I don't think they use it often. Fortuna is slightly different dynamic than us here in Eureka. They have a transport time that they have to bring people to jail. So they need a little bit more time to get people from Fortuna up to the jail, whereas we're 5 minutes away. St. Joseph Hospital is minutes away. Traditionally in the past, the question, you have to ask the question, okay, you have this tool, but what did you use before? How was this same mission accomplished? Oftentimes we worked in conjunction with city ambulance. Those gurneys have soft restraints that we have utilized in the past to some degree. Just last week we had an EMT worker get kicked by a person though. So we want to minimize the risk to officers, to subjects, and to EMS personnel also.
So, subjectively, how often do you think this might be deployed within the next year or so?
If you asked me that question 2 weeks ago, I would have told you maybe once a month. But over the last 2 weeks, I've heard at least 4 instances where our officers would have been well served to have it with them on scene.
Hey, board member Giventer, can you please
come to
make
your
can
microphone?
you use your microphone just so that this allows everybody else to hear?
Perfect. Thank you.
So this is new and you haven't used it yet, is that correct?
That's correct. You're the first person who's not on our team to get this, to get to experience it.
I want a tape of that.
So we anticipate what's probably a 4-hour training block for all of our officers for this. We want to get them knowledgeable and get them lots of repetitions on applying it. You don't want to be out there on the streets and be unfamiliar with the tool you're using. So we want to make sure that we get them every opportunity they can to practice and become familiar before it goes out on the field.
So I imagine that there may be an incident in which an officer calls for the supervisor, the sergeant, with the anticipation of using this. What's the time delay between an officer requesting this kind of device and the sergeant responding?
Roughly, what I envision is if an officer's calling for this device, it's because they're actively involved in a physical altercation with the suspect that they're taking into custody. I think that confidently an officer can get from almost anywhere in town with their lights and sirens on in 3 minutes, which would be the standard for responding to another officer involved in a physical altercation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Board Member Ciarabellini or Board Member Pardoe? Yes, Board Member Ciarabellini.
Just a comment. I'm. Is this something you have to take to the council, or you've already implemented it? Right? It's okay. Good. And I just want to thank you for the demonstration. Most exciting part of the meeting, actually. And I appreciate that. After all my years of working in the jail, we've tried all sorts of contraptions to control people safely and, without the old knee in the back and positional asphyxia issues and such. And I think that's a fantastic tool. So thank you for implementing that.
Yeah, nothing's perfect. Nothing's 100%, but we're trying to find new ways and devices to mitigate those problems.
Yeah, when the chief told me about this, I thought it was like a Avengers thing where they just threw it on the guy and then it got wrapped him up and then you could walk away. That would be impressive. That's a Shark Tank convention that needs to happen.
Next generation.
Yeah, and I just like to say that it's nice that it'll help keep our officers a lot safer, without because all it takes is just one move and there's an injury. So I just like the protection that it allows for our officers on this. Any other questions or comments? Nope. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is staff reports.
So I have no staff reports, unless Shannon would like to talk about something.
Nothing. Thank you.
Okay. You don't want to talk about something that happened at your house the other day? Okay, just checking. That's all the staff has. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We could put that on the future agenda item. So, speaking of future agenda items, earlier in our meeting, we put down for a future agenda item whether we want to continue to meet quarterly or every other month. That's one agenda item. Is there any other future agenda items that any of the board would like to add to a future agenda? Board Member Pardoe? Nope. Okay. Other than that, meeting adjourned. Thank you.